Directing and stage managing are two very closely related disciplines, so why not learn from someone who does both? My name is Kent, and this is your half-hour call.
Hello, company. This is the half hour call, half hour till the top of the show. If you haven't signed in, sign in now. Half hour.
Alrighty, friends, we are back, and today we are once again talking with director and stage manager Matt DiCarlo. After helming the original Broadway run of Beetlejuice, he's working as the restaging director for the Korean production of Beetlejuice. And make sure you stick around to the end of the video where Matt will share with you how to set yourself up for success as a director in the theater industry. But if this is your first time here, welcome, my name is Kent, and you are watching Half Hour Call, where we're dedicated to shining the spotlight on technical theater. So if you want how-to videos, interviews with industry leaders like you're watching right now, and insider theater updates, make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss another video. But that's enough of me talking. Let's dive into that interview. Well, hi, Matt. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm super excited to get to talk to you.
I am so excited to be here all the way from Seoul, South Korea. So thanks for having me.
How did you get started initially with directing professionally?
My first job after I graduated college was actually directing summer stock at Bucks County Playhouse. I've always been interested in directing, which has not at all hindered my interest in being a Broadway stage manager. They've always been two things that have been really important to me. In college, in the end of my high school time, I was sort of testing the waters and directing at our local theater, the community theater in my town, and getting my feet wet there. Again, I directed at Bucks County Playhouse not long after I graduated school. And it's always been something that I haven't held back about sharing my passion. As the PSM of big Broadway shows, often you're tasked with doing a lot of the things that come with being a director, maintaining the show, making sure that the integrity of the show remains intact, noting the company, working with the director and or the associate director or whoever on the maintenance of the show, putting in replacements, teaching understudies. All of those things were in my daily operating muscles as a PSM. The first time that I sort of recreated a show that I PSM'd on Broadway was when I restaged a production of Rock of Ages to go on tour. That was sort of the first time that I had done that, and I've been really fortunate to cultivate relationships with directors and with shows and producers where I make it really clear that it's something that I'm interested in doing, and it has served me well. I am so grateful that I've been able to have a life with a lot of these shows from multiple points of view, and that when I'm done, when I've reached sort of the end of my time as the PSM of a show, whether that means that the show is closed or that I am starting on a new project, that often my life with these shows has been able to continue in this way. And I'm excited to focus on the directing part of my life for a while. It's something that I've really wanted to sort of give attention to. It's a garden that I've long wanted to water, and I'm excited about that.
That's exciting, and it sounds like you're getting a chance to water your garden right now. What's the process? I know you haven't started officially the, I guess, rehearsals or tech process yet, but what's it been like so far?
It's been amazing. I am excited. I can't wait to get back into a rehearsal room. Restaging shows for me is something that I have done many times. I know how to fit into that process. I'm confident in being able to represent a director and an original production, but also find the way to speak about the show from my point of view through my vernacular, so that I can sort of feel confident as I lead a company through the process. That being said, I've always ever done it in English. So that is like the biggest, most wild part of this experience, is that Beetlejuice in South Korea is being performed in Korean by a Korean cast. And so at every step, I'm learning so much about working with translators, and the script and score for Beetlejuice have been translated into Korean, and we've received a back translation, and of course nothing ever translates exactly the same way back. So I'm looking at the show from a sort of different perspective and making sure that the choices that we made for the Broadway production of the show are going to fit in to the sort of new way that some of the scenes play, and that's exciting. The team out here is great. It's I've gotten very used to the Zoom meetings where we have translators, and we think we step on each other sometimes on Zoom when we're talking in the same language. It is exactly the same when we're trying to have a translator in the middle of those conversations. And so many times I've gotten so much better at catching myself when I'm like, oh gosh, I've said so much that like we have to give everybody a second to catch up because the translator now has to translate like 2 minutes of my talking. So that's been exciting. And I think the process is going to be great. It's the Broadway show. So all of the designers have been involved in the process. Of course, there will be some differences because we're in such a different sized space, but it will be the Broadway production of Beetlejuice with the filter of the Korean language on it. And I can't wait. We have 7 weeks in a studio because of that. We have a long time to rehearse it. And we start on Monday, 3 days.
So how has directing influenced your stage managing? And then how has stage managing influenced your directing? I feel like they're very similar art forms and disciplines, but they definitely have different priorities and obviously different functions.
I love this question. And I think that they are unbelievably connected. And I will say, one, for me, who has done a lot of both and often am doing both at the same time on different projects, one has completely informed the other for me in both directions. And I think that being a director and seeing shows from a creative point of view, which I think stage managers should do anyway, whether or not you want to be a director, we should all be approaching the process with at least some of a creative perspective. We're all artists in that way, and I have found that being a director has completely informed the way I interact with directors, the way I see directors, the way I work with actors, the way I speak to actors, and the way I talk about a show, and the way I approach everything from scheduling to scene work to noting the show to sort of navigating the complexities of the development process as we gear up for tech. Being a director has completely informed the lens with which I stage manage. On the other side, being a stage manager makes me an incredibly aware director. I know so much of what it takes to be in the PSM spot. I know often what it takes to be on the other side of the proscenium during tech. I'm not a director who says, what are we waiting for? Because I know all too well how much is often happening. And I am easier, I guess, at navigating some of that because I have the unique perspective. And I have had the perspective often of being the director on shows that I have also PSM'd. So I really intricately know on those specific projects, I know exactly how the tech process goes. Chances are the PSM at some point was given a copy of the call book that I made, so I really intimately understand that. And one of my favorite things is that I get to completely take one hat off when I'm wearing the other. And yes, sure, there are moments when I'm directing the play that goes wrong on a new company, and the stage manager, I will see them trying to navigate how to do a sequence with cue lights. And I can say, you know what? This is what used to work for me. Look at these things and call it that way. And I can lend that advice. But when 9 times out of 10, I can completely take the PSM hat off and focus on being the director. That's been one of the coolest things about Beetlejuice Korea, is that my experience in leading the company is going to be very different this time than the experience I had as part of the team that led the company on Broadway. It's a very different seat to be sitting in.
So as someone who's done both, what will set you up for a good working relationship with a new director, or with a director that you haven't worked with before, or one that you have worked with before?
I'm a stage manager who loves directors, obviously. I think that it is one of the most, if not the most important relationship that you have on a show, very specifically on a big show, is your relationship with the director. It's one of the most pivotal relationships in any production, very specifically because of everything we're talking about with how we all communicate with the company, how we lead the room. And I really do think that it's a real partnership in those two people in the way the room is led. On a musical, often also the choreographer and the music director, those people who are doing most of the talking in a process and in a room, whose voices people hear a lot. I think it's really important that those relationships are solid. And I find that transparency and honesty is important. I think that, especially when you're working with a new director, you want to make sure that you are communicating with that artist in a way that is going to serve the process, and that you are helping facilitate the creative work that needs to happen in a way that is going to serve everyone. And ultimately, like, we have to put the show first. And not every director has the same process at all. Not every stage manager has the same style at all. What our job is to find the way that, as a stage manager, my style can come together with the director's process, and we can make art that way. For me, the relationships I have with Alex Timbers and John Doyle, Cheryl Kaller, Rebecca Teichman, directors who I've worked with recently, is that it's about finding the humanity in the communication, being able to really let the director know that you are a safe space for them to come to. You are going to be, and making sure that we're always being honest, that we're being clear, that we are offering advice when we feel like we can, and also know when it's not the right time to offer advice, and being able to read a room, read a conversation, and find the way to have a relationship with the director that supersedes just what goes on between 10 and 6 in the room. That is also, often a question that comes in tandem with this, is how do you build long-standing relationships with directors? It's in fostering a human working relationship with someone that exists beyond what's happening in the nitty-gritty of the process. It's as simple sometimes as asking someone about their day and actually listening to the answer and caring what the answer is, and really being able to connect with people and to make sure that the director knows that they can come to you for and with anything.
So what kind of person would make for a good director? Like, what qualities are important when deciding whether that's something that they would want to pursue?
To me, having been able to be part of a lot of developmental processes, watching directors help birth a show, to me, the best directors are unbelievable, unwavering collaborators. And I don't mean unwavering in they don't have strong guideposts and strong leadership. I mean unwavering collaborators in that they thrive in collaborative settings. The best directors that I know surround themselves with collaborators who they are excited to work with, and ask more questions of the actors than give answers to the actors, and are able to facilitate a process and guide a process in a way that is careful, mindful, and clear, and making sure that everybody in the room, everybody in the process, and sort of big idea of the room, feels like they have a place at the table. Those situations are where I see directors thrive the best. Coming in with a strong concept and a big idea and a clear vision is wonderful. And it's even more wonderful when you're able to get everybody on board with that and let people take it and elevate it. And the best directors I know don't think they're the only ones with the right ideas. Those are the directors that I've tried to align myself with. The directors who I feel like value everybody in the room and include everybody in the process and are interested in telling stories as a group of people and helping to facilitate that kind of electric collaboration, those are, to me, the best directors out there.
Did you have any moments where you felt like you were getting pigeonholed into either being a director or stage manager? And how did you kind of combat that?
You know, you could ask 50 people this question and get 50 different answers. I believe that the only person who can pigeonhole you is actually you. I know way too many actors who direct and stage managers who have transitioned into doing something else, and directors who also design, and company managers who have become stagehands or producer. You know, like, I know too many people who have sort of shift focus or who do multiple things within the industry. Sure, people are going to know you as something. We can't change that. What they know you as is sort of, I think, up to you. I mean, I don't know that I've ever felt necessarily pigeonholed, but I do know that there have been times in my career where I've had to laser focus on a thing, right? And I started being a PSM very young. I was early in my career when I took over as the PSM at Rock of Ages. It was important, really, really important to me, that as I moved through my time with that show, and Rock of Ages changed my life in more ways than I could ever explain, I knew that as I moved through that process and ended up sort of leaving Rock of Ages and moving on, it was really important to me that I proved to myself and to, you know, the community that I was capable of being the PSM of a show. And it wasn't just because I had grown up at Rock of Ages that I was able to do that. It was really important to me to build out my resume as a PSM and to make those connections and work with people and be involved in processes in that capacity. So for a while, like, I might have pigeonholed myself. You know what I mean? I might have been like, what I want to do right now is PSM another new musical. What I want to do right now is PSM another show. I want to work with another director. I want to do a revival. I want to do a bigger show. I want to build this out. What I was doing, though, at the same time, was fostering relationships that were helping this other passion that I had. And through the building of that resume as a PSM, I mean, I was also trying to build that other part of my career. And rock, I mean, you know, I've opened 5 shows on Broadway. Sing Street would have been the 6th. COVID shut it down, but out of those 5 Broadway shows, 4 of them I have directed other companies of. And so in a way, like, maybe I was pigeonholing myself at a certain point in time, but I was also trying to foster this other thing. And now, you know, all these years later, I'm at a point where I want to do the opposite. I want to now foster the directing part of my life a little bit more, because I know that I focused on something else for so long, and that was for a lot of reasons. But now I'm sort of ready to give the other thing attention. People who have other interests and want to do other things, that's amazing. I know a lot of stage managers that do associate directing work. I know a lot of stage managers who are authors, poets, teachers, real estate agents. I mean, there's a million things you can do. And, you know, you asked the question, like, did you ever feel like people only saw you as one thing? And I think, sure, you know, today, one of the easiest things people can identify me with is the PSM of Beetlejuice. Easiest. That's like one of the quickest things. But there are also, for me specifically, people who would say, oh yeah, he restages the play that goes wrong. He staged the play that goes wrong at New World Stages. You know, that it's all about, like, how we're putting ourselves into the industry, the choices we make as theater makers, as artists. That's true for anybody, not just for stage managers or directors. It's all about, like, seeing what we're doing as cultivating a career and building a career. I really believe that stage managers, as a community, we could do ourselves a real big service by looking at the work we do as something beyond just being laborers. We are part of a labor union. Yes, we are. But I always shy away from people saying like we are laborers. I don't like that term when it sort of comes together with the job that we do. I think it diminishes a little bit the way that we work and the way that our lives as freelance artists play out. So I think it's all about perspective when we're looking at this stuff.
Speaking of how you put yourself into the industry, if someone is looking to put themselves into this industry, specifically as a director, what are some things that you would suggest that they do either early in their career or while they're still in college or something like that to sort of set them on the path to success?
I think it's important as a director, and I have been in the business for a while and I'm sort of looking at this from a different perspective, but I'm doing this work too. It's important to know what kind of stories you want to tell and what kind of projects you want to cultivate. And it's about forming relationships with the people who are going to want those same things, or that you think might align with your sensibilities and your points of view. In the same way that stage managers look for like-minded stage managers, or stage managers to complement them on a team as you build your team out. The same is true for cultivating relationships as a director. You want people who are going to challenge you in a great way. You want people who are going to show up at the table with a different perspective than you, but that it's going to complement you. You want to build relationships and forge collaborations with people who you want to tell stories with. And as a young director, I think some of the most important things you can do is meet people, talk to people, take any opportunity you can to work with actors, to work with writers, to tell a story, even if it's even if it may not ever go anywhere. The best thing you can do as a young director is flex your muscles in terms of leading an artistic process and again, driving home the idea of being a collaborator. Practice being a collaborator. If you want to be the associate director or the assistant director on a big Broadway show, put your focus on networking and who you're meeting with people who might have connections in order to get you into that spot. And think in a more well-rounded way about that. Just like for stage managers, it's not only stage managers who get stage managers' jobs. It could be a director, a choreographer, a producer, a general manager, a designer who recommends somebody to someone else. The same is true for young directors. You want to meet as many theater makers as you can and make your interests and your passions clear.
On that note, is there any other advice that you would like to share for the directors of tomorrow?
Oh gosh, I think I might have answered it all in the last question. The thing I would say to the directors of tomorrow is, and it's a little bit driving home what I said earlier, but I think it's important today. It's exceptionally important in the current climate. And it's make sure that as you seek out the shows that you want to work on and the stories that you want to tell, that you are telling a story that you should be telling. And that as a director, if you think that the story that you're setting out to tell on stage might be better told by someone else, make space for the people who should be telling that story.
Well, thank you so much, Matt, for being here today and for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad we finally got to chat.
And thank you so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. My name is Kent, and this has been your Half Hour Call. Find the perfect gift for the stage manager in your life at the Half Hour Call store. Now with free shipping on all domestic orders. New products added frequently. Visit KentJamesCollins.com/store to shop now.